The Netflix series Black Mirror is one designed to challenge the way viewers critically think about their society through taking seemingly reflective or parallel situations and shifting them into drastic dystopias that show blatant injustices. In particular, the episode 15 Million Merits is very clearly crafted to reflect the reality of the power imbalances within the groups of two important social distinctions, economic status and gender. Through the use of different types of shots, the color and lighting in them, and the variety of mise-en-scène they display, the creators of this episode showcase the power imbalance between men and women and those of high and low socioeconomic statuses. Specifically, in the audition scene of the main female protagonist, Abby, the audience sees these power dynamics in play, and the injustice it leads to due to her marginalized position in society. The first eye-catching aspect of this audition scene within 15 Million Merits is the type of shot distancing utilized to frame the horrific and intense feelings that come from this young woman with aspirations of being a singer, being pressured into agreeing to become an adult film star. Throughout the majority of the scene, the viewer notices that many close-up shots are being used. These are quite useful to portray these very fraught emotions of the character during this critical moment. For instance, numerous times, Abby is shown through this close-up shot. Tears are seen, the shakiness of her breath showing her fear, and the frame being taken up by her numb, almost blank stare conveys the effect of the drug they had given her alongside the societal pressures in that moment. In the scene, she represents two marginalized groups, both female and the poor class. The cuts used to transition from one shot to the next provide almost a side-by-side effect of the different experiences of the characters without taking away the ability to guide the viewer's eyes to these intimate emotions. For example, many times the close-ups are used directly after Abby's distraught face and stillness being the main focus in the frame to contrast the very relaxed, confident postures of the three judges, these characters representing the powerful, rich class, with two of them representing the male-dominant group as well. One could argue that the actors are in charge of this clear character portrayal, but it could not have been enhanced in such a manner and made so clear if the shots weren't designed to give these viewers these up-close and personal details of their emotions. Along with this, the close-up shots push a focus on Abby's gaze, her head moving back and forth from the judges who want to exploit her for monetary gain to her only friend who has her best interest in mind, Bing. These close-up shots guide the audience to follow Abby's emotions and confusion in that moment, almost making it as if they were right there with her on the stage. Numerous times they are used to show her gaze drifting back to Bing, make it clear that the power dynamic between the men on the judges panel and the higher economic class of the judges as a whole are forcing her into a corner she doesn't want to be in. Not only this, but the color scheme and the lighting of each shot add to this display of a clear hierarchy through their attachment to the characters and the sides of the arguments on Abby's drastic life change. For example, the main colors seen in these shots are red and blue, a battle of two primary colors. In almost all shots of this scene, the judges and the audience pressuring Abby to agree to this crude career instead of the singing dream she had are attached with red lighting and colors, like that of the audience as a whole, or even other symbols such as one of the judges' red jackets and the other's red lipstick. Blue can be briefly seen in the background of the judges, lighting up the audience as well, but only in a particular manner. There's a clear line and distinction between the crowd lit up in red and the crowd lit up in blue, the latter existing only in the very back rows or in the periphery of the shots. This use of color and lighting suggests that there is a difference between those closer to the seats of the judges, almost as if they are closer to reaching or are a part of that highest socioeconomic group just because of their proximity to the judges' table and the color. Not to mention, with the connection of red directly on the judges, it shows that there is a connection based on wealth and high status. Surrounding Abby, however, are cooler shades of blue lighting and pixels in the background, which are even matched by her very blue eyes that the viewers often see in this close-up shots. What's quite interesting is we see the purple lighting, the mix of these two combating colors, shading the shots that Bing is in right before he's about to interfere. In other words, he is in between both sides. Though he is an audience member, as those shaded with red lighting are, he is on the side of Abby to consciously choose against this proposal but cannot be next to her. As a viewer, one then sees the purple shift to a hint of blue as Bing walks toward Abby to help her, before he's dragged back, right into vibrantly red lighting. It's almost as if to say he got sucked into the opinion of the rest of the people, leaving only Abby tentatively holding on to her option to say no with absolutely no one to support her. Hence, she is the only one with blue lighting. Another thing to notice about the red lighting is its saturation in particular shots. Though the female judge is also shown in close-ups or medium shots with red lighting or objects, it seems that the frames containing the male judges also accompany their characters with almost exclusively red lighting and objects. For instance, one of the male judges has a red jacket, which clearly, as a bigger object than applied lipstick, has more of a presence in the scene. Not to mention, both male judges are shown in many shots with an almost only red-lit audience. This is a way that the power dynamic between even the judges is imbalanced imbalance. If red is the color of power and high status, then the male judges have more of it than the female judge. This also makes a clear distinction in the vast difference of power that Abby has in her vulnerable blue state compared to that of the male judges on the panel. The red and blue colors and lighting in the scene become attached to ideas of high socioeconomic status, red projecting wealth, self-assurance with everyone on their side, and blue projecting loneliness, uncertainty, and the poverty that comes from being a bike rider. It is as if the judges and the crowd are beckoning her to come to the dark side, or red side in this case, for a change in class. Finally, the mise-en-scène in these shots are also notable additives into this unwanted and unwarranted pressure to make this drastic, scary life change. As mentioned before, many shots of Abby are close-ups, which may not allow a lot of room for background props or people. However, even in the long shots, Abby is shown with almost nothing behind her except for the technological graphics and lights, conveying the sense of loneliness of one person versus the entire world. In contrast, the judges in practically every shot, whether close-up or long, are seen with various different objects and a huge portion of the crowd behind them. This stark disparity in the heavy integration of numerous mise-en-scène objects for the judges compared to Abby is a way to convey their side of the argument is overwhelming, almost like everyone is against her. Along with the amount of objects or people being a huge way to convey this power from both a gender and economic standpoint, there are also specific items that convey this sense of power or importance which is higher than Abby's. For instance, the scenes with Abby show her dressed in drab, gray, and simple clothing. On the other hand, many of the shots show off the makeup, jewelry, and done-up appearances of the judges. Therefore, at the end of the scene, the audience has grasped the full extent of this power imbalance from the mise-en-scène by the number of people on each side of the shots at a time, the majority of them being men compared to one female being alone, and the rather expensive items and wardrobe held by the judges. Due to these things, the viewers sadly understand why, at the end, Abby agrees to a career in adult filmmaking. In conclusion, the types of shot, the color and lighting used, and the general distinction between the mise-en-scène coupled with the characters in the shots create this very intense emotional scene. These techniques put together make for a very clear sense of social hierarchy between Abby and the judges based on socioeconomic status and gender. This episode portrays the unjust power dynamic that exists between people with wealth and those without, along with the one between men and women. Ultimately, it shows a stark imbalance between social classes through the situation of a young woman being pressured into exploitation, a far different spot from where she thought she would be after standing on that stage.